The United States Bill of Rights.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion
Or abridging the freedom of speech.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms.
In all of human history, it is found that freedom is the exception, not the norm. The pillars of the American experiment and of the resultant liberty have been a civically moral, educated, and active people. We, the people of Vancouver, Washington's mission is to encourage one another, our families, and our communities in these pursuits, thus reasserting civic ownership of our cities, state, and nation.
Thank you very much. How long do I have, by the way?
Oh, 15 minutes?
15 minutes. Wow. Is that too much? No, that's pretty awesome. You never give a guy running for office a microphone in 15 minutes. You'll never see the end of your evening again. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come down and talk to you tonight. I want to make clear, though, Brian Sontag has not endorsed me. He has said that I'm the only candidate in the race that's actually qualified to fill the office. It's a fact-based statement, so I'll go with that. My name's James Watkins, and I'm running for Washington State Auditor. Washington State Auditor is a position that's unique to Washington State. I've talked all around the state, from Wallingford to Walla Walla, and the first thing I get is, what does the state auditor do? So how many people here believe that they get their money's worth from state government? No hands? Not one? Okay. So how many people believe that we should get our money's worth from the state government? Okay, seeing more hands. That is what the auditor does, is to make sure that we as taxpayers get our money's worth. State auditor does that in a couple of ways. The first way is through financial audits, auditing all of the government entities in Washington State. There are over 2,000 of them. And the other thing the state auditor does is performance audits. And this is something that we as citizens, through I-900, chose to give the state auditor the power to do performance audits, which is to go into a government entity and see if they are doing their job as well as they should, how it compares to other people, and so forth. Just last week or the week before, there was a big audit released on K through 12 education. Did anybody see that? You should check it out. It's on the state auditor's website. In that document, they will rate the local school board, the school districts, and how they're doing compared to their peers. And they came out and they found that across the state, the average, only 60% of our education dollars are going into the classroom. 40% is being spent on overhead. Does that make any sense at all? How many people here have their own business or involved in a business where they know so a lot? If you had 40% overhead in your business as opposed to direct costs, how's your business doing? Not so well. So that's what the state auditor does. Brian Sontag has been our state auditor now for about 20 years, and he has been a fantastic state auditor. He is respected across the United States as being the best state auditor in the country, and he has always put the interests of citizens first. And he's put the interests of the citizens of Washington State over that of his own party. He's been an independent, fair auditor. He said in the only statement that he's given, only interview this year, that I am particularly well qualified to serve as state auditor, to advance the office and act as an advocate for taxpayers in Olympia. And I think that's pretty important. So what is that experience, and what is that, where do I come from? I've been doing performance work my entire career. Since I earned my MBA 23 years ago, I have done over 150 performance audits, and I've done those for the federal government, for nonprofits, for businesses. I've worked with big companies and small companies, but the common denominator is I've helped those companies get faster, get more efficient, and more effective. And I would argue that we need more of that in Olympia, not less. The race is shaping up to be very interesting. I am the only Republican in this race, so I'm feeling pretty good about my primary chances. But, you know, to be fair, the first part of this race is making sure I didn't have any primary opponents, and I went all over the state to do that. I'm running against 3 Democrats, one of whom is your favorite local state senator. No? No. Yeah, at any rate, one of your local state senators, Craig Pridemore. Senator Pridemore has gotten all of the endorsements on their side, on the Democrats. He's got the Democratic Party endorsement, and he's gotten all of the other normal endorsements on that side. Strangely enough, he doesn't come out to independent forums and debates, and he is pushing, he's running a really interesting race. He's running on social issues for state auditor. He's running on using the auditor's office to help Washington State get an income tax. And he wants to raise taxes. Now, I just want to point out that the auditor's office has nothing to do with any of that, but that's what he's doing. I'm running against a couple of other guys who are in the race. They're nice enough guys, but they don't have any real experience. The interesting thing is none of these guys have any real practical experience. Like I said, this is what I do for a living. And what I'm seeing as I look at this race, and I'm going to editorial boards and I do various forums with these guys and stuff, what they say behind closed doors to Democratic groups and people that are sort of friendly to their cause is one thing. What they say to open groups is entirely different. And I don't think that's a very effective way to run for office. I'm running on a very clear platform, and I say the same thing to you guys that I say to Democratic groups, and I do talk to Democratic groups. So what these guys are trying to do is they're trying to use the state auditor's office, your watchdog in Olympia, to drive through legislation that they could not pass in the legislature. We as citizens of Washington State are fiscally conservative, right? We voted overwhelmingly against a state income tax. Did anybody here vote for the state income tax? We'll out you right now. Not so much. We voted overwhelmingly to impose a 2/3 majority requirement on the legislature to raise taxes, right? Because we don't trust the legislature to raise taxes and to use our money well. And instead they want to come in and they want to raise taxes and that sort of stuff. So as I look at this, it seems to me that hiring a sitting state legislator is not unlike hiring a fox to watch your hen house. And has that ever worked in the history of the world? Is it going to work if we hire somebody from the state legislature to go to the state auditor's office? No, absolutely not. So I'm just going to close up. Maybe then we can do some Q&A. This is a critical race to Washington State. There are only a handful of races this year that I think are truly critical. This is one. Governor's race is number one. And then the second is going to be the state auditor's race. Because if we have Senator Pridemore as state auditor, and he's using that office to advocate for bigger government, more powerful government, and to hide the truth from citizens in terms of open records and that sort of thing that he's voted over and over again to hide from us, it's going to be a catastrophe. Now, I am going to win this election. I am going to win the bulk of the newspaper endorsements. I'm going to win the bulk of the debates. We've had 2 debates, and I've won both times. But what I need is I need help getting out the message. And that's what I need you guys for, and I need you to give me that help, and I need it right here so we can be as effective as possible in Vancouver and Clark County. Because I'm going to get very significant vote totals from Clark County, and it's going to have to be offset, of course, against some of the other areas of the state. They're not as friendly towards Republicans. But let me tell you one of the reasons why I'm going to win. I talk to everybody. Everybody that has asked me to come to do an endorsement board, I have gone and talked to them. I have talked to every group that has invited me, if I can possibly schedule it. A couple weeks ago, I went to the Pierce County Young Democrats. And it's a group of young Democrats, very passionate about their party and their political beliefs in Pierce County. They invited me to their endorsement board. They let me come and speak. I gave them my normal stump speech, and you know what they did? They endorsed me. And they endorsed me with 70% of their vote against Craig Pridemore, Mark Malosha, and Troy Kelly. And it's that kind of thing that's going to help me win this election. So I'm going to close up with a quick story. Washington State has only hired a sitting legislator once in our state's history. The man's name was Neil Chatham. Now, Mr. Chatham came directly from the legislature over to the auditor's office. He had a 4-year term. And what do you think he did in that term? He used it to raise taxes, and he used it to hire more tax collectors. When he ran for re-election in 4 years, he was crushed in a landslide. That was in 1897. We have not made that same mistake for 115 years, and I'm telling you right now, we're not going to make that mistake in 2012. So I just want to close up by saying, I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I need your help. My campaign associate has been passing out the clipboard. Please sign up, get on our mail list. We've got materials over here. Would love for you guys to take business cards, give them to friends. This is an important election. I've never run for statewide office, so nobody knows my name. They'll hear it from the paper. We're actually doing the Columbian Endorsement Board on Monday, and we'll see how that goes. Send in nice letters. But would love to answer any questions you guys have about me or the auditor's office. Yes, ma'am. Brian Sontag has not and will not. Brian has decided that he wants to kind of remain above it. The only thing that he has done is he's given an interview where he talked about the 4 candidates. He said one had a good heart. He said the other did a capable job as a representative in a swing district. And he said, I am particularly well qualified to serve as state auditor. And he said the other guy is running on social issues and he doesn't get that at all. That was Senator Pridemore. So, you know, you take your own conclusions from that. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. I read an article on that. In fact, the article said what Brian didn't say about Craig Pridemore was more important than what he did say. He was almost mute on Craig Pridemore, and I want to thank you for running and I know that you'll win too. I was going to say this in my speech, but it goes with you, which is basically even Democrats don't trust Democrats.
Micah. You said that you expect the endorsement of many newspapers. Are you delusional?
No, I'm not delusional a bit. You know, in this state, we have a long tradition and history of good government. And if anybody has been in this state for more than 15 or 20 years, you remember some of those good governments that we had where they cared about taxpayers, they cared about providing good services for reasonable cost. You guys remember that? Where they would do civic projects that didn't split us and divide us and cost us billions of dollars, like a certain bridge over the river. And I can tell you that a lot of the newspapers care deeply about good government. They care about the auditor's office, and they care very much about open government. Each of the guys I'm running against, you guys know open government sunshine laws, where you as citizens have the ability and the legal right to go and request any document, any meeting. They have to hold their meetings in public, not behind closed doors. And so what the gentlemen that I'm running against have done over and over again is they have voted to limit the independence of the auditor. They voted against sunshine laws. They voted for more exemptions to open meeting requests. These guys, you're going to love this. There's right now a penalty, or there was a penalty, for open records for agencies and governments and so forth that blocked open records requests. The minimum penalty was $5, 5 measly bucks. Each of these 3 guys voted to eliminate that $5 penalty. Christine Gregoire, that paragon of government virtue, vetoed it. It was such a bad bill. Each of these guys voted for it. So that's the kind of stuff that these endorsement boards are going to see. Do you guys know the Washington Coalition of Open Government? Toby Nixon is president of that. They've done a great job at making sure our government is open. Toby Nixon has personally endorsed me. And so that's, I think, also going to go a long way with the newspapers and other media. Yes, ma'am.
Would you educate us about what force for good the auditor's office can be with an audit such as the K through 12 that you just spoke of? What can you do to help us once a bad audit comes in?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I would characterize that as a very good audit that was done. An auditor does not set policy. An auditor does not go in with a political agenda. An auditor merely tells the truth. And if an auditor does not tell the truth, then that auditor is not doing their job. And what the auditor's office did in this case is they investigated K through 12 education. They compared our state with very specific metrics, incontrovertible metrics, to our peers and to other organizations, school districts against school districts, to see how they're performing. And then they figured that out. And so now we as citizens know, you can go look up on the state auditor's website and say how your local school district is doing. And are they in line with the rest of the state? Are they better than Mississippi? Are they better than Bellevue? And then you can agitate and you can have some actual facts to go and help them either get better or congratulate them. That's what the auditor does. The auditor does not allow government to hide behind bureaucracy and hide behind rules and regulations and closed doors and do whatever they want to us as citizens. That's what the auditor does. And through those performance audits, the auditor shines a bright spotlight on a certain part of government and says, this is either working great or it's not, and we can make these changes and make it better. And that's the strength of performance audits. Yes, sir, way in back.
I'm running for PD Commissioner. I understand that the Auditor's Office will be the office that actually works with the PUD to determine if they're in compliance with I-9. Can you tell me a little bit about that role and how you see that playing out?
Sure. The question was, how does the Auditor's Office work with PUDs around compliance issues specifically? The Auditor's Office, when the Auditor's Office does specific audits, we do financial, the Auditor's Office does financial, the Auditor's Office does compliance audits, and it does some other things around controls and that sort of thing. And so the Auditor's Office will actually work with the local utility districts and so forth to make sure they're in compliance with the regulations as published. And then you also have the ability to request some information from the Auditor's Office and so forth. The Auditor's Office actually does training sessions to help folks that are getting audited know what to expect and how to deal with that on both the financial and the performance side. One of the things that I want to make sure that I can do as audit, and I think that the Auditor's Office has really done a great job at this, is to be as proactive as possible with the local agencies to promote good government. We've seen that on the performance side. It happens, I think, to a larger degree than people would recognize on the fiscal side, and I certainly want to promote more of that. Now, you know, I've had a 23-year career of doing performance audits and other kinds of work, and I'm actually paid by my clients to come in and give them good advice. And because I do that, my clients often invite me back and pay me again to give them good advice on a different topic. I think it should be the same way with the State Auditor's Office, where they're invited to come in. And as I've gone around the state and talked to local municipalities and other folks, they want that kind of advice and expertise from the State Auditor's Office because they often can't afford it themselves. So we probably have time for one more question or two. I didn't even keep track of time.
You got time for one more. Anybody else?
One more? Okay, I just want to close up. Oh, we did have one?
Who determines what is audited? Does the legislature direct that? Does the governor, or do all of the above? So
who do you think should decide?
I think the auditor should.
And that's what happens. That is not what my opponents want to have happen. They've tried over and over to pull that power back to the legislature. They've tried over and over to remove that power from the auditor, and every time the auditor has fought that back, and with the strong support of the people of Washington State, and I believe that will continue. I'm James Watkins, running for State Auditor. I need your help in this race. I need you to sign up. I need you to take some materials, give them to your friends, and we've got wonderful little envelopes up here that are awfully nice when you fill them out. So thank you very much.